Spoke to Stephen Rannekleiv. He's a global beverage sector strategist for Rabobank International. I asked him about the upswing in Chinese consumption of wine.
The story, you look at the growth, and there is growth in the Chinese wine market, but what's made it a really interesting story is this shift more, not just about quantity, but about the quality of wine that they're drinking and the real upswing and the quality of wine that Chinese consumers are demanding today, and that's played out a lot in the demand for imported wines. And you've seen a lot of imported wine starting to displace the domestic wine in China. 2017 imports were up something like 17%, and this is a long-term trend. You go back 5 years, over the past 5 years, imports are up something like 62%, and they've taken just a much greater share of the Chinese wine market over the past 10 years.
And so then, like 15 years ago, wine really wasn't even all that popular in China. So what brought about this change? I mean, as you say, their palates there, they can distinguish really good wines.
Yeah, they can. That's absolutely right. And what's changed really is the short answer is China has changed, right? I mean, obviously, the economy has blossomed. You've seen enormous growth in the Chinese middle class, and consumers have a lot more disposable income. So it changes how consumers shop. And then on top of that, you have students going abroad to study, consumers going abroad for vacation, going to places like Europe, Australia, the U.S., and starting to become much more exposed to different foods and drinks and so forth, and that stuff comes home with it. And it's not just traveling, right? I mean, there's movies, there's social media, everyone is connected, the world is getting smaller. So you've seen the Chinese consumer starting to adopt things from abroad. And wine is part of that process.
Yeah, what are the types of wines that are popular in China?
Well, China is definitely a red wine market. It's probably more so than just about any other major wine consuming market in the world. China is incredibly dominated by demand for red wine. It's something like 75% of the wine they drink is red wine. And then among that, France is the biggest supplier of imported wines. But, the real growth story lately has been Australia. That's been just seeing tremendous growth in the Chinese wine market lately. And part of that is a free trade agreement. But I think also stylistically, there's some affinity for the Australian style of wine.
Yeah, they make some fantastic wine in Australia.
They do.
But when you think of fine wines, you think of France, Italy, Spain. Here in the United States and California, you've got those two counties that are famous for wine, Napa and Sonoma. It's also worth noting one of the wineries in Napa belongs to Yao Ming. So again, that connection. Yeah. Where is China in the mix? How does it stack up? What's the quality of the wine like? What do they need to bump up into that next level, so to speak?
Well, they're definitely making progress. The quality of wines, I think you talk to just about anyone any wine expert that's gone to China and done tastings, the quality of wine has improved exponentially over the past 5 or 10 years. And, it's a process, right? I think the investments are going in. You're seeing Chinese winemakers go abroad to learn. You're seeing foreign companies come in to make investments, and so the process has started. But I mean, it is a long-term process. It's not just about learning how to make better wines or how to grow grapes. You have to figure out where, what the right regions are, what varietals do best, how to best cultivate them. So it's a long-term process. But given how slow the process can be, it's actually happening incredibly fast in the Chinese market.